Motivating your patients with video. Who am I? My name is Rod Solar. I'm a healthcare marketer. I've been doing this since 1997 when I founded a company called Livesey Solar Practice Builders with my partner Laura Livesey. And the two of us have been working to help doctors and surgeons start and grow their practices. We've also been involved in lots of healthcare businesses ranging from single practices up to hospitals and large chains. We've worked in North America, we worked in Europe, the Middle East, and pretty much all over. So this particular talk is about video, but Livesey Solar does many things. One of the things that we do is lead generation through digital marketing, and we do that through website design and video blogging, which I'll talk a little bit about in this presentation. We also do quite a bit of written content, and we also do quite a bit of training. So we encourage our participants to convert more callers into consultations, and we get doctors and clinical teams to convert more consultations into paying treatments. We also do work in referral marketing, where we run events both online and in person for doctors, whether their audiences are general practitioners or other specialists or patients themselves. And we also work with these healthcare businesses with pricing strategy and also marketing strategy overall. So this particular talk is quite specific, and we're going to be mainly talking about video production, of which we've been involved in quite a bit. So why video? Well, video is an extremely exciting area to be looking at. I'm just going to share some statistics with you. Currently, businesses using video grow company revenue by 49% or faster year on year than organizations without video. And that is extremely significant. If you're not using video, you're losing out on quite a bit of speed when it comes to growing your revenue. The video drives about 157% increase in organic traffic from search engines, and I would suggest that this is probably the #1 reason why these businesses are enjoying this kind of growth. That's a significant increase, and generally speaking, we're looking at always improving organic traffic because it's the least expensive type of traffic, and it also tends to be the highest converting type of traffic. So that's extremely valuable visits that we'd like to encourage. 70% of marketers now claim video produces more conversions than any other content. Clearly, marketers are becoming much more aware that video is indeed the state of the art. It beats out text, it beats out sound, it just generally outperforms every other piece of content there is. Social video generates about 1,200 more shares than text and images combined. So not only is it valuable to have video on your website, but it's also important to be present on social media. And when you're in social media, you'll find you'll get a lot more engagement when you share video. 59% of senior executives prefer to watch video instead of reading text if both are available on the same page. And we've done quite a bit of experimentation with this because one of our products is video blogging, where we film practitioners answer frequently asked questions, and then in order to get the SEO value from those videos, we transcribe every word. We usually put those videos on a single blog post and roughly about 300 to 400 words of text that mirrors what has been said in the video. And we find that these blog posts are generally responsible for quite a significant amount of more page views and more time on site and just generally more organic traffic. Video on a landing page can increase conversions by 80% or more. We've seen this ourselves. When we put video on landing pages, we get much more engagement. And this is why it's extremely important, because we all understand and appreciate that the most important aspect of any website is how many conversions it generates. 74% of millennials find video helpful when comparison shopping, and 60% prefer to watch video over reading a newsletter. Now, millennials may not necessarily be your target market, but they absolutely will be. They're one of the largest, if not the largest, cohorts, generational cohorts that is coming through the pipe, and you definitely owe it to yourself to understand what appeals to them. because they indeed will be the people who will be buying from you most in the future. 4 times as many consumers would rather watch a video about a product than read about it. Well, that should really spell it out. If that's what your consumers are looking for, if they're looking to see and hear and watch you do your thing, that's what you need to give them. So enough with the text, even though it's still very, very important for search and also extremely important for lots of technical detail. Supplementary detail, video needs to be the star. Now, 62% of consumers are likely to have a negative perception of a brand that publishes poor quality video. Now, that is a bit of a challenge, and I would suggest that that's one of the main reasons that we all have a bit of an inkling why video is risky. We seem to think sometimes that video is something we might want to avoid, because if we're not doing it perfectly, then it's probably better that we don't do it at all. Now, I'm going to suggest to you in this presentation that that's a myth, and that there is a place for amateur video, and there is a place for premium video, but there's also a place for professional video. Seth Godin once said marketing is no longer about the stuff you make, but the stories you tell. And the reason I share this quote is because I want to emphasize the fact that marketing really has changed. And through the explosion of social media and through the explosion of self-generated content, we're seeing a lot more respect and a lot more appetite for authenticity. People are really looking for people to be themselves, and they're looking for them to share their stories and to share the stories of those people that they help. Gone are the days where people are interested solely in looking at a product, understanding its features, its advantages, and its benefits, and deciding from that point whether or not they want to buy the product or not. Today, they're much more interested in who you are and what your story is and what's the story behind this product more than anything else. So this is something to keep in mind, and especially one of the reasons why video does such a great job. Video, for anyone who's ever seen a movie or a TV show, understands very clearly that it's an outstanding storytelling medium. And this is precisely the type of medium that you want to employ if you want to appeal to what consumers want today, which is to hear and watch stories being told. So let's get into storytelling as opposed to pushing our products. So how can you use video? Well, a lot of practices today and healthcare businesses today aren't using video. And it's something I definitely want to encourage them to do. So I thought I'd write down a few ideas as to how they might be able to use video with a list of video applications. And these are by no means the exhaustive list, but they are some things to get you thinking about, and will probably start helping you notice what other people are doing in other fields, but also in your field. So let's, a lot of people want to use video for patient education, and that was probably the most the historically present type of video. We've seen a lot of videos being made that are quite professional, of animations, especially about things like how particular body systems work, how the eye works, and there's been whole companies that have pushed these types of products, and doctors and companies that are using them. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They're very valuable, and some of them can be extremely beautiful. But it doesn't end there. We also can look at profiles, which was the types of video that most corporates got into right from the beginning. They might spend 25 to 50,000 pounds or euros to get a big, high production value profile video done. And this typically was the domain of large companies with very significant budgets, because video has historically cost a tremendous amount of money, and it's been out of the reach of most entrepreneurs and new businesses. Service descriptions, so organizations who are able to invest in video have in the past attempted to describe their services through video, either by showing how things are done. And what you see there is you'll see a lot of product descriptions too, because a lot of medical device companies have used video to show you how their products work and what the benefits of those products are. Testimonials. Now, we've seen a lot of that in the past as well, and that's become more common the more you look, where healthcare organizations are asking their patients to give them testimonials on video. Of course, this is always somewhat of a challenge with people being somewhat shy, but I think that in the future, as social media takes off, as it has been, People become less and less shy, more and more shy, and are becoming much more open to the idea of sharing their stories on video. But testimonials are absolutely an excellent way to use video. I'm surprised at how many people don't use it, but I understand the reasons and the reservations that people have when they are shy about asking their patients to appear on video. I can assure you that organizations have created many, many testimonial videos. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. People don't look at it as selling. In fact, quite the opposite. They trust patients who have undergone procedures more than they sometimes do the doctors themselves. Patient interviews, which is a more extended version of a testimonial where you sit down with a patient and either the doctor or someone else interviews them about their experience, and this can provide a little bit more depth about the patient experience, and that can be an extremely useful exercise. And I find that those particular videos can be very effective as well. Patient case studies, where we follow a patient going through the processes involved in having a procedure. Now, as you can imagine, many of these are quite contrived, but that's not to be understood in a negative sense. What I mean by that is that they're prepared, they're polished, and certainly they're videos that tell a story. And I've been involved in several of these types of productions, and they're very, very effective, especially if you have to have good, authentic and engaging patients who can tell their stories on video and are happy to be filmed. So there's lots of great opportunities to have those types of experiences being shown online. Frequently asked questions, and that's something that we've been doing quite a bit of. And what we essentially do is we ask doctors to sit down with us for 4 to 6 hours. That sounds like a long time, but we get a lot of work done then. We get a camera crew involved, and we prepare a series of questions that relate to the types of questions that many of their patients ask, and also the types of questions that appear most highly in search. And one of us will sit down in front of that doctor and interview them, ask them those questions, and we film the doctor answering the questions. And when this might go on for 4 to 6 hours, and then we take all of that video and we cut it up, we edit it, and we create shorts that answer each individual question. And that can be extremely effective at helping us create content for blogging. It also publishes to YouTube, so we have a great presence on YouTube channels for these clients. And there are also great reference materials to which you can send answers to common questions to patients when they ask them over email, for example. You can place those videos anywhere on your website, should you wish, not just on a blog, but also throughout the pages of your website if they're relevant to that content. And you can even use it for training internally. So if you have salespeople who are answering the phone or working in the clinic who perhaps aren't answering the questions in exactly the same way, and we all know how much we all want that to happen, we can use these videos to encourage them to use our words and to use our methods in answering questions. Community engagement. Well, that's where socials begins to become involved in the video production ladder, if you will. And this is to engage patients or prospects into our brand and to help them understand a little bit more about us and what's our background. So this is more in the domain of more amateur video, where we might be appearing on social media with this video, whether it's a Facebook Live or Periscope or any of the other platforms that allow us to create video. Now, the nice thing about community engagement is that many of these live products now that are available on social media encourage active engagement from the community. And it doesn't necessarily end with comments or likes. It actually occurs real time. So if you're providing a live broadcast, you can be getting live engagement and interaction. So for example, a doctor could hold a Q&A with their audience and suggest to them that they're going to go on at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday evening, and they're going to answer any question that anybody poses about a particular topic area. And that can be extremely engaging for people, and not only those who have questions to ask, but also want to see the doctor answer questions asked by others. And we have webinars, and webinars are more of the perhaps more formalized approach at doing community engagement, and they're usually run on perhaps a series of webinars. And what this involves is very similar to what I mentioned above, but having a little bit more control, not just a talking head video, but showing material like I'm showing right now, and also engaging with customers who might be talking to us through the webinar software. So those are all the different types of ways that we can use video applications. And as you can see, there's an enormous amount of ways and applications that benefit practices in sharing information and also getting information back from patients. But the big question that remains is why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing more video? Why aren't you purchasing the film equipment, or why aren't you contracting more video service companies to do video for you? Why do we still look around and see a small amount of video on websites? Why doesn't every practice have a DVD? Why? So let's get into some of the obstacles that stand in people's way when it comes to the prospect of creating video for themselves. So one of the main reasons why people decide that they want to hold back on producing video, they're happy doing content like written content or visual content, like even infographics or other types of imagery, but they're hesitant to produce video. And one of the reasons is because they're trying to protect their brand. People understand that video essentially exposes you, and it's one of those things that it's difficult to hide behind. And at times people feel quite protective about how they're coming across, and rightly so. That makes perfect sense. Now, I would argue that many of those attitudes were generated at a time when people had quite a judgmental view as to what professionalism meant. And let's be fair, that definition of what professionalism is expanding, and it's changing, and it's different for everybody. And I find today that people are much more interested in who you are than what you're pretending to put across. And when I say pretending, I don't always mean that you're lying. I don't necessarily mean that. I mean that everybody puts on a mask when they are projecting their brand value, if you will. And that's totally normal, and it happens with everyone. But I think people are becoming now much more interested in the authenticity behind that brand. The other thing too is that you don't control your brand anymore. With the advent of social media, review sites, people commenting and creating videos about you or comments about you or articles about you, the conversation has gone from a broadcasting model where you're talking to many people talking to many other people. And if you think you're still in control of your brand, then you're sadly mistaken, because you're absolutely not. You're not in control of other people. You can most certainly influence how people perceive your brand, but to think that you're in control of your brand is completely erroneous. And that's being shown constantly every single day when brands can be either elevated in the marketplace or demolished in the marketplace. And it's all done by your customers or people who might be interested or not interested in you. People create an impression, they have a perception of you, and they decide to share it. Sometimes it's a good perception, sometimes it's a negative perception. But let me tell you this, it doesn't matter whether or not you produce content. They're going to make those impressions anyway. So you might as well be part of the conversation. And I've been saying that for years. Don't sit outside of the conversation pit. Get in there and have your voice heard. You're not protecting your brand by ignoring those who are talking about you. Number two, you're concerned about cost. And this is a very legitimate concern, especially in the past where video was extremely expensive. And yeah, I mean, the cost of video was something that we would avoid, mainly because it was so exorbitant. In order to get good quality video, one needed to spend a good chunk of money. Today, those things have changed. That's not to say that things are becoming cheaper, but they are certainly becoming less expensive. And what I mean by that is the quality of video has increased while the cost has come down. And really, anybody who's interested in marketing their healthcare business really needs to be looking at video as highly accessible. The technology in terms of the camera equipment, the lighting, the sound. Everything is coming down in price, and therefore many of the service providers are also charging much less. I'm amazed today at what we can get in terms of return on investment for video. That's another thing. I mean, people in the past didn't really look at video as a return on investment proposition. It was more of a, well, let me tell you all about me proposition, and let's improve my brand. But today it's very much about return on investment, and that return on investment is possible because video just doesn't cost what it used to, and that's a very, very good news for those of us who are who don't have abundances of budget. Number 3, you're concerned about permanence, and this I completely understand. If you produce video and once it's out there, it's extremely difficult to get rid of it. Sure, you can erase things, you can delete things, but once it's being shared, it becomes much more difficult to do that. Now, there's no really easy answer to address this issue. Yes, once you produce content out into the world, it is indeed out into the world, and therefore you need to be prepared. You need to know what you're going to say. You need to know how you're going to say it, and you need to be able to deliver it in a way that is uncompromising. Now, at the same time, that should not stop you from considering getting involved. Certainly, if you're willing to say something to a patient, then why shouldn't you be willing to say it to the world? I mean, absolutely, the standards should be the same. So it's just a question of getting over that fear that once you say something, it's there forever. Yes, of course, we all make mistakes, but here's the good news, is that people don't judge us that much for making these mistakes anymore. Now, there are different types of mistakes, and some mistakes are more forgivable than others, but at the same time, everybody understands and appreciates that everybody's human, especially when it comes to communication. And that brings us to number 4, which is you have performance anxiety. And what I mean by this is that it takes a lot of courage to get in front of a camera. And I've had many experiences with people who I would have expected to have a great degree of courage, because after all, they're going into operating theaters and cutting people open and, you know, having performing procedures that might carry great risk. And they don't seem to have much performance anxiety when it comes to that. But of course, they're highly practiced at that. When it comes to actually expecting these people to then get in front of a camera and bare their souls and expose themselves, well, things get a little bit dicey. So I can completely understand why people might have some performance anxiety. And we do our very best to reduce that anxiety among people. By encouraging them and making them look as good as they can, and also helping them feel comfortable with what they're saying, giving them tips and advice on how to communicate what they're trying to communicate. And we find that usually the anxiety is much greater than the concerns really amount to be after they see the finished product. Now, I can't necessarily help you get over your performance anxiety when it comes to doing your own amateur video. But I would suggest to you that it gets a lot easier the more you do it. Everybody's got to get out there at least once or twice before they can get the cobwebs out. But once it happens, it becomes, for some, quite enjoyable, and even for others, quite addictive. So I hope that you're able to actually overcome that initial anxiety, because you'll find that it dissipates over time. Now let's talk a little bit about levels of video production, because there are many levels, and this is an important area to discuss, because we have to understand what we mean by different types of video. And the 3 main levels, I'm going to be discussing the benefits, the risks, the best uses, the costs that are typically quoted out there, and there's also some samples of videos in the links that I'll be sharing below this video as well. Now, let's start off with premium. And this is the kind of video that wins awards. This is the type of video that we typically don't see in the corporate world. It's more arty. It comes at a very high cost. It's typically best used for advertisements that are broadcast quality. I have a feeling that this premium area is going to be less and less used for that as the technology improves and as costs go down, because it's becoming hard to tell the difference between premium and professional videos. I think as well that advertisements on broadcast television are going to be going the way of the dodo. I personally believe that broadcast television won't be around in, I'll give it a couple of decades at most, and cable television will follow soon thereafter. So this is an area that I think is going to be going away very soon. There will be arty films always, but that's not necessarily going to provide you with the return on investment that you might be looking for. It certainly might not even serve the purposes that you envision. The cost of these types of videos for 1 to 2 minutes is between £20,000 or euros to about £50,000 or euros. And that's an enormous range, but at the same time, it's also an enormous cost. So that's certainly something that puts a lot of people off video. This is the type of video that you see in Hollywood. It's a type of video, like I said, that wins awards. This is certainly not the type of video that I think that we want to be looking at. Number one, it's overkill. Number two, it's way too expensive. And number three, I don't even think it really serves the purpose that we're after. So let's talk about professional video. And professional video, what I mean by that, the benefits mainly are predictable quality. So the kind of quality that you would you can expect. No one's going to apologize for the quality that they provide. You're going to know what it's going to look like before you pay for it. One of the risks of this type of video is that unfortunately it's a little bit boring at times and can be self-centered. And now I say that's a risk in the sense that it doesn't have to be that way, but it can be. So you have to be somewhat careful in terms of the story that goes into it, you know, how contrived things are, and do your best to add, well, to be as authentic as possible during the video, and to shake it up a little bit, and not just talk all about yourself, but mainly talk, you know, directly to people who are watching, and try to be as empathetic to patient needs as possible. The best uses of this type of video are blog posts, profiles, descriptions, training videos. We've used a lot of this type of professional type of video for most of our clients. This is the kind of video that we focus on, and many of our clients have benefited from this type of video. We've now produced well over I think something around the area of 300 individual videos that are of the professional level. Now, the cost that many people quote for these videos is between £1,000 to £3,000 or euros, and I put a little star there. And the main reason I do that is because that's the typically quoted price. But if you're smart about this, and if you are efficient in how you plan, how you coordinate, and how quickly you can get the video done, you can get that cost down significantly. And what I mean by that is you can get potentially around the area of, let's say, 100 minutes of video for a similar cost to what I've put down there. It takes quite a degree of planning. Like I said, it takes some know-how. But yeah, absolutely, it takes consistency, but you can do it. And if you're interested in that, then I really suggest that you talk to us about that, about how that can be done, and you have a look at some of the samples that we can share with you. I have a link in this presentation, but I'll also be sharing the link below in case it's necessary there, to what a professional video looks like, and links to perhaps some other professional videos. And that takes us to amateur. Amateur's got a bit of a bad name. When I say amateur, I don't mean anything negative by it. There's some great benefits to having amateur video. It can be fast, it can be inexpensive. Now, the risk, of course, is variable quality, and that entirely depends on your own talent and the tools that you use. And of course, that can be scary to people. However, I'm going to show you in this particular presentation how to get over some of those risks. The best uses for this type of video are blog posts, social media, and also internal. I wouldn't necessarily use it for say a business profile. I wouldn't necessarily use it for service descriptions unless you're really, really confident that you can deliver something that's as close to professional as possible. But certainly I would advise that this is something you definitely want to get involved in. One of the most attractive things about it is the cost. It's essentially free. All it requires is your time, your talent, and some tools. There's a bit of practice in getting things organized. And of course, you need time to not only film the video, plan the video, but also post-produce the video. and upload it to various software platforms. But certainly it's well worth the effort, especially considering what the cost for professional video can be. The good news is I'll be sharing all my suggestions on the tools that I have personally used at Livesey Solar to film amateur video that we feel we're very happy with, and we'll have a link as to what a sample looks like underneath this presentation as well. Right, well, who excels with video? I was having a conversation with the gentleman that does most of our video when we work with clients. His name is Ahid Mia, and he told me on a recent conversation when I was discussing this very topic is that people who do the best with video aren't afraid of mixing the levels. So the levels that we discussed above, the professional level and the amateur level, there's a place for both. There's absolutely no need to stop short at the professional level. You definitely have to get involved with that. There's no hiding from it. But certainly the amateur level is something you can absolutely get involved with too. And there's different purposes for each. Like I said, different benefits of each. And getting involved with both of them is a good idea. Just knowing that you're producing good content, quality content, authentic content is the key. And you can most definitely just aim the different levels at the different purposes, and you're good to go. So what do people want to see today? You know, if we're ready to make some video and have some ideas in terms of what we could do, what do people really want to see? They want to see the real you. And what that means is that they want to see honesty. They want to see the person speaking off the cuff, authentically, not from a script. Something a little bit like what I'm doing right now. I mean, sure, I'm not presenting myself in front of the camera in this particular video, but you can hear it in my voice. There is no script here. This is my honest assessment of how you can use video in your practice. There's no real contrivance. This is speaking directly from experience. So yeah, that is what I think really works. They want to see and hear honesty in your presentation. So it's completely acceptable to be the real you. You don't have to hire anybody to do this for you, and you don't have to pretend to be something you're not. They also want to see honesty in testimonials. So if people share their stories and their experiences, they want to hear the good, and also perhaps even, you know, the so-so. It doesn't all have to be glowing. Although in this field we tend to be lucky they had a lot of glowing testimonials, but still it's nice to be able to get the real people involved there. Like I said, they want to see authenticity, and this extends beyond just you. They want to see people who can present themselves humanly, who you can say, you can look at that person and go, I trust that person. I believe that person is telling me the truth. And that's what really, really works in video today. They also want interaction. And like I was saying earlier, when it comes to not only producing video on video platforms where people can interact and give comments and likes, whether that's YouTube or social media platforms like Facebook or Twitter or Google+, they also want to be involved in things like webinars. They want to not just comment on the video, but the subject of what you're talking about, and be able to ask you questions in real time. So that's definitely the area where things are going. And we're going to be seeing a lot more of advancement in that area, even where people are starting to co-present between each other, not just individuals sharing their own perspectives, but being able to perhaps even join others and broadcast video at the same time, having conversations. Now, of course, you know, when we're talking about amateur video or even professional video, know that you can always spend more. I mean, the thing is that authenticity is what sells the most, but of course you can always spend more and make it, you know, get all the bells and whistles you like. You can spend more on lighting, you can spend more on locations, you can get more cameras involved, therefore more crew. You can get, you can prepare more, storyboard, you can write it all out, you can, you know, do a lot of preparation for this. You can do a lot of post-production, you know, After Effects and things like that. But really, that, like I said, all of this stuff is window dressing. And absolutely, if you can and feel that there's a benefit in doing so, absolutely go for it. And, you know, you want to pick your battles, of course, and not do this for every video because it really slows down production. But at the same time, it's valuable to get involved in some of these things should the need arise. But don't let this stop you from producing video on an amateur basis so that you can start producing content that people are really becoming more engaged with. So why is authenticity so important? Why do I keep going on about being the real you and being honest? Well, the main reason is because there's been a big change in consumers. And my view is that consumers have become way more sophisticated. They know bullshit when they see it. And video is the true test. When they're looking into your eyes, people tend to sense whether or not you're telling the truth. And this is where the people who are indeed telling the truth can stand out from those who perhaps aren't telling it how it is. And this is why I encourage you, if you are confident about your services and your company, if you feel good about what you do, then there's absolutely nothing in the way of getting out there and producing video so that people can see the confidence in your eyes and hear it in your voice, so that if they believe in you, they can begin to believe in themselves believing in you. And that's what we really want to happen. So I'm sure you're really, really excited about creating video for yourself. So how do you go about making your own video? Well, here's what you'll need, and I'll get right into the technical aspects. Now, later on in the post, you'll see, not in this particular presentation, but lower down in this post, you will see different videos that I am sharing of advice on things like composition, advice on things like overall backgrounds and lighting and things like that, technique. Here, I'm going to talk more about tools. So here's what you need. Of course, you need a camera. And many people aren't aware that you can get excellent quality video from your smartphone. And I know that sounds crazy for those of you who perhaps have not tried it, but you would be amazed at the quality that you can get from your smartphone's camera. You need a tripod of some kind. You need something to put that iPhone on. Holding it at arm's length is not really going to work for this purpose. Sure, that's fine for holiday selfies, but you need to go a little bit further for a video that even looks close to being professional. You want good lighting, and that's something that can't be underestimated. Lighting is very important because, of course, we only see what is lit, and if you're talking in the dark, then it can turn people off. And you need to be able to communicate in a way where people can see you and feel invited by the visuals that they're seeing. A microphone that is a quality microphone is essential. People, in fact, are more turned off by bad audio than they are by bad video. So you need to invest in a microphone. It doesn't have to be expensive at all. I say invest, but it's almost nothing. But definitely look at getting a good microphone so that you can sound good. Editing software, you don't have to go wild on this. There's plenty of free editing software available that will get you to where you need to go. And that's all I'm going to need really say about that. We don't have to really focus too much on editing software. Just know that it is available, and it's getting more and more easy to use. Of course, you'll need a YouTube account, and I'm not necessarily just selling YouTube. You can use Vimeo if you like, but somewhere to store these videos. Putting them on your hard drive isn't going to be good enough, and you certainly don't want to host them on your website. But I'll explain each of these in turn. Getting quite specific now, here's what we use to produce video. So again, this is I'm going to state here that this is when we're producing amateur video, and we're doing quite a bit of this now. This is not the kind of video that I sell to my clients. The video that I sell to my clients is the professional level of video. I get the crew in, a couple of guys who are experts at what they do. They bring the big cameras, they bring the lights, the reflectors. We hire locations. You know, we go all the way. Well, as all the way as we need to. What I'm talking about here is just the amateur stuff, okay, which you can do inexpensively just to get started with video. So I use an iPhone 6. it's not a 6S, it's just a 6. There's a new iPhone 7 that just came out yesterday, and apparently that has an enormous amount of memory available to it. Mine has 16 gigabytes, which is, just gets me by, really. But ideally, if you have an iPhone 6, hopefully you get the 32 gigabyte that will allow you to store more video. All this does is it just requires you to download the video onto a computer more often if you have lesser space. Typically, I can get a 10-minute video of me talking into the camera and use up 1 gigabyte of space. So, it's not so bad. I like to use the rear camera if possible. The rear camera tends to be twice as good as the front-facing camera, so that's really important to remember. Of course, it's a little bit tougher, and there are ways to get around not being able to see it. You might need somebody helping you to set up the shot. That's always useful. If you're entirely by yourself, there are ways to get software that reflects the image on your computer screen so that you can see what you're looking at on the video rear-facing camera. That's called Reflector 2. So if you're interested in that, you can look at that. But yeah, use the rear-facing camera if you can. It tends to be a lot better. You'll need a tripod. Here's what we use. We use all of these things, but we use them for different purposes. A Joby Grip Type GorillaPod, that's what's pictured in the slide here. And that's excellent for any uneven surface, especially if it's metallic, because those little red feet are magnetic. And that's great because you can put your iPhone in there and it holds the phone. You can film from the front, from the back. It's great for a desk. It's excellent for a table, and which is where most of us might be doing our amateur video from, if we're doing talking head videos, staring at the camera and talking at it. It would work for interviews as well, as long as it's a little bit further away. It works on a bookshelf. I mean, it's great. It's a really, really easy tool and extremely helpful to get your phone out of your hands. We also, when we need to put our either our camera or our iPhone on a taller surface, that's there's nothing that we can put the GorillaPod on. We use a Hama Star 62 tripod, that's the standard lightweight tripod that you can use for your camera. Very useful and inexpensive. By the way, I include links to every single thing that I'm talking about here lower down in the page, so you're able to download or actually there are links to Amazon, so you can have a look at the prices in your country and decide if that makes sense for you. The iOgrapher IOP case for the iPhone 6, that's essentially a two-handed stand that allows you to create more stability for your iPhone. So as opposed to kind of holding it and having the motion of your hand move it around. That's great, especially if you're doing any kind of video on the move, if you're doing any virtual tours, or just filming anything outdoors where you have to hold your phone. And even if it's just yourself. So that's an excellent little piece of kit. It's not too expensive. You can also put a microphone on it, and you can also put lighting on it. It's like a rig for your iPhone. If necessary, we can use a selfie stick as well. The benefits of that selfie stick are hit and miss. They're not always useful for every purpose, but they're excellent if you have difficult angles to get in and you need to get a wide shot. The other thing about the iOgrapher, by the way, is that you can put lenses on it. So that means you can get a telephoto lens over top of your iPhone camera, or you can get a wide angle lens or a fisheye lens. These things can be quite useful for different purposes. So yeah, you can put lenses on your iPhone. That's pretty cool. With lighting, we use two Neewer's lights. They don't look at all like that picture there. Those are big theater lights. They're basically light panels, power panels that look about the size of say a trackpad, and those two need a battery that's rechargeable, and I've listed the type of battery that they need there. These lights are not terribly expensive, and they can sit on stands if you want to do that. They can also just be held. But yeah, they produce a nice soft light. They come with a couple of filters to warm them up, and they also the filters can be removed to get a nice bright spotlight if that's what you're looking for. But yeah, those lights are excellent, and they're also dimmers, so they go up and down in terms of the brightness. Highly versatile, extremely useful, and the amateur video that I'm sharing I was using one of those lights in order to offset the bright light coming in from the big window that I have on the other side of the room. Microphones, we use two Boya BYM1 lavalier microphones, and those are specifically made for smartphones. What they do basically is they clip onto your lapel, and they can be hidden behind your t-shirt or your dress shirt if you like. And they're great. I mean, they're extremely high quality. They sound fantastic. I filmed the video that I'm going to share as an example with that particular microphone, and it sounds fantastic. It sounds like I'm right there with you. This particular video was filmed with a different type of microphone. It's a Yeti Blue, which is more for desktop applications, not for iPhone, but it plugs right into my computer via USB. That's not really part of the discussion here, but I just wanted to mention that in case you're interested. We also use a jack splitter, Smaze extension earphone. What that is for is to hook up two microphones into the same line so that we can have interviews, so that we don't have one person who's louder and than the other person, depending on just where they are on the phone. And that's really useful because it allows us to conduct interviews in any kind of setting, even if it's louder than we want it to be. And sometimes we can't always choose the sound that we have in our settings. I mean, I'm sure you heard in a little bit earlier where you heard a little siren go by, and I'm next to trains, so you hear some trains go by sometimes. Hey, that's just all part of the authenticity, right? You can't make everything perfect. After all, I'm not going to invest in that massive studio time just to do something like this. With editing software, we use Apple iMovie. Of course, we can also use Final Cut Pro, and our video folks use Final Cut Pro, which is state of the art. It's the kind of stuff that movie makers use. But Apple iMovie will absolutely do your purposes for amateur video. It's I think there's a small price now. I think Apple charges something like 15 euros or 15 pounds for iMovie. It used to be free, but for the latest version, it's about 15 pounds. But it's worth its weight in gold. I mean, it's absolutely simple to use and gets the job done. You can put soundtracks on there. You can cut things. You can split things. You can join things. You can bring different videos from different shoots in. It's just really, really simple. I know that Windows has its own native video editing software as well. I can't remember what it's called right now, but if you're a Windows user, I'm sure you can find that software on your device. There are also web video software that will enable you to edit edit video as well. And you can download that video just by doing a quick search for free editing software or free editing video software. Of course, you'll need a YouTube account. You'll need somewhere to store this video. So it can also be Vimeo, and we use our YouTube account for some things, mainly for public videos, the videos that we're sharing with the world. And we use our Vimeo account for our more professional video. So all of our training videos are on Vimeo, and the main reason for that is because we like the privacy and the security that Vimeo affords, which is a little bit different than what YouTube affords. Different platforms for different purposes, both very good. Some people say Vimeo tends to have a slightly better quality, but that's up to you. I mean, lots of people are posting on YouTube. It's enormous in terms of content and great for search. So absolutely, YouTube is where you want to put most of your videos. The number one thing you have to avoid is never, ever host videos on your own website. Number one, not only will it slow your website down to a slug pace, but if you keep putting more video on there, you'll get people unable to access the website, especially if more than just a few people start getting involved. And it will cost you enormous amounts of money because video is huge in terms of memory space. And if you want to store video, it's going to cost you a lot of money to store it on the web. So I would suggest that you get some external drives and put all that stuff into your drives. Keep them off your computer, keep them separate. But if you anything you want to share, just put it on YouTube or Vimeo and you embed it into your website. All right. So you do need some kind of platform like that. Fortunately, YouTube is completely free. Vimeo, they charge a little bit for some of the more sophisticated settings, but either one of them will definitely is definitely affordable and will serve your purpose. Right. Well, the total cost of that kit that I've shared with you there, and by the way, you don't need everything. You don't need all of those different tripods, for example. You don't need 2 lights. You don't need 2 microphones, but I've just included it because it's all part of the mix in terms of what I recommend. All of that kit, I priced it right now anyway at €377.89. That's crazy affordable for you know, everything you need to produce amateur video. It's fantastic. So that's, you know, it's nowhere near prohibitive. It's something you can definitely get involved in and try things out. And even if you decide that you don't want to do it, it's not a terrible risk. So I'm not selling it here, not to worry. But all the links that I provide on the bottom of this webpage go directly to amazon.co.uk, and you can probably search it in your own country if you need to. Right. So I'm going to share with you a little bit more of information here. This is, by now, I have already given this presentation. If you're watching it on the day immediately after the presentation in Copenhagen, all you've got to do now is just text us at this number that you see at the top there. Give us your email address when, oh, by the way, what you're doing is you're texting ESCRS 2016. You give us your email address and we'll send you an invitation to visit with us at 5:30 at the Sky Bar. That's today if you're watching this on September 12th. And that's just open to people who are attending the conference. Also, what you're looking at right now, where this video is, if you're looking at it on our website, is this is the article that I was talking about with links to every piece of equipment listed in this presentation. And also there's 2 instructional videos below where that show you how to film your own smartphone video, whether you're using an iPhone or whether you're using an Android device. So that's everything I promised to you and more. So yeah, if you're watching this video on the 12th, make sure you text ESCRS 2016 to that number, 44, that's a UK number, 447903567718. Just text the word ESCRS 2016. The device will send you a text back and it will ask you for your email address. When it does so, enter your email address and then you'll get on our list to hear more about what we're doing at Livesey Solar with all our practice building techniques and everything that we do for healthcare marketing. So that's it for me. I want to thank you for listening to this presentation and encourage you to get involved in some of the things I suggested. Feel free to share this presentation around. And yeah, I look forward to seeing your video on the web. Thanks very much.